to try and interrogate and try and get as much information as they can. Again, trying to figure out, just what this guy's intentions are, where he may be intending to go, and if they can actually figure out that information, sometimes they may very well give it up temporarily and meet him wherever he's going. Especially if they have more information and intelligence on the driver and the vehicle. If it does start to escalate and he gets into oncoming lanes of traffic or poses a real danger to the public, that'll be their next course of action. But again, that information will become very helpful in that situation. In the meantime, he's going at such a relatively safe pace here that there is no reason to let up on him. They really want to get him off the road here. Again, he's wanted for an armed robbery and is known to be armed. So it is important to get this guy off the road at all costs, assuming it's safe to do so. Yeah, underneath the 110 freeway now, David, and you're right. He's had plenty of opportunities to get on the freeway. Not the best option for him. Maybe he's familiar with the traffic patterns because right now, eastbound traffic on the 10 freeway is all jammed up. If he goes westbound, it's relatively light, though. Again, he's had plenty of opportunities, but has been sticking with the streets. This entire pursuit so far has now come to a sudden stop temporarily, slowing the vehicle to a complete stop here on Venice Boulevard at Figueroa as those officers get ready to execute a felony stop. He's now going with traffic here, stopping with the red light. He's got a red light at Venice Boulevard and Figueroa. We'll see if he continues to move through this intersection or decides to give up. He has plenty of room to play with here. However, he is kind of playing a little game of cat and mouse here with these officers as he debates what to do here, whether he's going to continue this chase or finally give up. That's obviously his best option. Nothing like that, but at this rate, if he does continue, spike strips would be a great option. He's traveling at a pace that is slow enough for them to set up if he establishes some kind of a pattern. If he establishes a pattern and really starts to give them an idea of where he's going next, and they can kind of get units in position, then they can set up for that spike strip, and that would be very effective to bringing this kind of a pursuit to a quick end. But right now, he's not really established that pattern, but he is traveling slow enough that if he continues, maybe they'll have that opportunity. Even a pit maneuver is a good option too if he's in a more desolate area. But right now, at this time of the day, we're seeing just so much traffic. Even though he's had no major traffic jams he's run into, and he's slowing down for a lot of the red lights and stop signs. There's just a little bit too much traffic in the area for a safe pit maneuver, especially these narrow streets. Right, and look at, once again, coming up to another red light here and just stopping very casually at the red light. Those units are ready to pounce if he does open that door, but right now he's kind of taking them along for a joyride here through downtown LA, obeying many of the traffic signals here and rules of the road, but that's not going to help his cause because, well, it's just too late. I mean, they are determined to get this guy. This is a serious, violent criminal that they believe they are chasing, so they're not going to give up very easily. It's really up to him to show signs of surrender here, and something tells me we may see him give up at some point. If not, maybe just dump the vehicle and go running for it, try and run away, but I don't think he's going to get very far. He's got a lot of eyes on him, a lot of units behind him. He's got helicopters overhead. He's really put himself in a bit of a corner here, and his passengers are giving up all that juicy info. So they have all the tools they need. They're really just going to let him exhaust as much gas as possible. That's a good point. That's a good point. They do have that information, and that could be a tactic that they use. If they can get a crisis negotiator on the line, they will try and attempt to call him and maybe try and talk him down. That's a possibility. We don't know if they're doing that, but that is certainly a possibility considering the information that we do have. He is apparently a known criminal, and he's got a bit of a history here, so they may be able to communicate with him, and if not, they can even communicate with that PA system. If he's continuing to come to these full stops, they'll continue to try and talk to him and order him to stop and pull over, and maybe at some point he may think twice and just decide to surrender. They're going to use every tactic they can. Right now, they've got the benefit of a relatively slow driver behind the wheel here who's not really amping things up. He's not really escalating this. They've got all the time on their side here. We have those same 5 units that are right behind him at the intersection of Broadway and Venice Boulevard. Yeah, but he's leaving a lot of room. He's leaving himself a lot of room to play with, even as he does encounter some of that traffic. He's now underneath the 10 freeway, coming out the south side, southbound on Broadway at 18th Street. And he could be giving himself that space to play with, or he could be playing games with those officers. That's a possibility, but he doesn't seem to be trying to, get anywhere fast. And now he's going to get a little bit more congested rush hour traffic here just south of the 10 freeway. Again, Broadway and 18th, he's got a pretty steady line of traffic approaching that signal, a red light there. And, how long is he going to continue this? They can't really do anything unless he shows signs of surrender and pops open that door. At this point, they're just going to continue to, ride traffic with them and navigate the streets of South LA here as we make our way into the southwest area, or southeast area, I should say. It does. The fact that he's armed with a weapon or believed to be armed with a weapon does make a big difference in terms of what tactics they decide to employ here. Ultimately, it's up to the watch commander, but that does really give them a lot of pause when they have an armed suspect behind the wheel that they know about. Right now, he's got, again, a little bit of room to play with here and still not doing more than 30 miles per hour, doing right around the speed limit here on Broadway. So the driving is safe enough, but the driver behind the wheel is anything but safe. It's a volatile situation, especially with that gun in the vehicle, if indeed he is armed. With that information, they are going to play this very, very carefully. They're going to treat him with kid glove care, both during the course of the pursuit and especially once he comes to a stop at some point. It's going to be a very tenuous situation until they finally get him in handcuffs. They most likely will, unless the behavior behind the wheel really changes. If he starts to go crazy and start, amping things up, that'll be when you see a change of tactic, and maybe even they'll decide to put it in tracking mode. I think it was already in tracking mode at one point earlier on. So they didn't have a problem doing that, especially as long as they've got the helicopter overhead with eyes on the suspect. They can quickly get units on the ground into his location once he comes to a stop if the driving becomes too dangerous where they have to pull back on the ground and they have to give him more space. But in situations like this where it's a slow speed pursuit, it's just too tempting to just, stay on him, especially if the driving is safe enough. They want to be ready as soon as he decides to give up. And that's ultimately what they're aiming towards. They're aiming for him to give up, and they're going to do whatever they can to take some of the pressure off. They will monitor his behavior very carefully, and if they see the driving start to change, that's an indication that his adrenaline is starting to pump a little faster and he may become a little more desperate. We just don't know ultimately what his state of mind is, whether he's under the influence, or what other factors could be contributing to this. But right now, it's really more of a joyride from my vantage point than anything else. He's just taking them along for a casual ride through the streets on a Friday afternoon. He's dropped off his passengers. He knows he's on borrowed time. He is most likely aware that he is not going to be sleeping in his own bed tonight. So it's just a matter of toying with these officers, I believe, and just kind of taking this as far as he can and enjoying his final moments of freedom here. As a general rule, that is the case, but you know, those are always there's a lot of variables that play into those decisions, and you know, those wash commanders can go ahead and order the pit maneuver or a spike strip. Generally, you're right, they will not if they have a confirmed weapon in the vehicle. Yeah. Continuing southbound Broadway, and as I look down, as he's going to make a left turn here, and Broadway is actually wide open for him. So Broadway will parallel the 110 freeway here, and if he was on the freeway, he'd be really stuck because the traffic is pretty much bumper to bumper, especially on the southbound side. But as long as he stays on the streets, you know, this could go on all the way down. As I'm looking down the freeway here, down Broadway, it is wide open as far as I can see here. So he's got some traffic lights, but that's about it. Traffic is very moderate, very light. He could take this all the way down into South LA. We can go much deeper into the LA area, or he could take this all the way into another jurisdiction. You just don't know where this is going to ultimately end up here. Eventually, we may see other agencies be involved. Right now, this is really in the middle of the LA jurisdiction here, right here in the Southwest Division. Again, this all started in their Olympic Division. He has moved through a number of different LAPD areas, but we are now getting away from downtown, which is good news. Less hiding spots down here as he makes his way in through Southeast LA. But he has come to a complete stop once again, giving them lots of time to strategize and try and figure out what their next move is going to be. I don't know what that's going to be, but you know, clearly they don't have good visibility into the vehicle with those tinted windows. Just really difficult to see what's happening inside that vehicle, what the driver's doing. Is he animated? Is he agitated? We just don't know from this vantage point. You're right, because when they started the pursuit, he was known to be an armed robbery suspect. There's been every indication that there would be a gun in the car, but he may have dumped the gun. I mean, those passengers, you're right, David, will tell them whether maybe they may, if they know, they may be able to tell officers whether the gun in question is still inside the vehicle or just how armed he is. Because if that gun has not, if that gun has left the vehicle for any reason, whether he threw it out or whether that information was incorrect to begin with, then you could see other tactics employed here, including a pit maneuver. We just don't know whether there's a gun in there. It's just a suspect, a suspicion at this point that he is indeed armed. Continuing southbound Broadway here at a slow rate of speed. You just have to point out here that the speeds here have been extremely moderate, extremely composed driving here. He is going on a really casual cruise down Broadway, now in the 40s, passing 43rd place in Southeast LA. He's got traffic, but he could go around that traffic very easily. If he wanted to go faster, he certainly could. He has the luxury of lots of open space in front of him if he wanted to go any faster. He is choosing to go relatively slow here, now passing Vernon, continuing southbound Broadway at speeds under the speed limit, no more than about 20 miles per hour by my estimation, maybe even a little bit slower than that, about 20, 25 miles at times, but just really maybe thinking about giving up or looking for that perfect opportunity to just dump the vehicle. We just don't know what is going on in his mind, but he's got lots of time. The slower he goes, if he starts traveling much faster, that really limits his own options, and we'll just see how strategic he is. He's gone through that intersection there at 47th place. Those units traveling with their lights and sirens on right through that red light now, and he is just, I mean, you know, at this rate, these are the pursuits that almost become even more unpredictable. Sometimes, you know, when the driving is really dangerous, or you just see pure desperation behind the wheel, you get a better idea of just how it's going to end up. Sometimes you just get a feeling, or you get a little bit of a clue or suspicion. But when you have this kind of time to play with, this could go on for hours, depending on just how much gas is in that tank. And you guys know, we have seen pursuits in this city go on for hours. Copy. Plenty of fuel. Plenty of fuel. Plenty of fuel. Sounds good. Let me know when you want to make the move, Rob. That's what I'm saying. So another couple miles. See if he makes any turns. I know. Good point. Very smart. Maury. Negative, not yet. What street's he on now? 60s? I see it. I see it. I see it. If he was going faster, we'd make it. It would make it easier. Yeah, I would say another few blocks. But he's just going so slow. Of course. Let's do it. On Rosecrans, I heard that. Yeah. Thank you. Copy. 10-4. Oh, boy. Yep. We're ready. Well, a little bit of a change of events here, David, as this guy is apparently taking us all the way down to the 105 on Broadway, and suddenly, after taking his time getting from West LA through downtown all the way down, paralleling the 110 freeway on Broadway, he has now decided to turn around, make a U-turn, and we are now going northbound on Broadway as we continue this joyride through the streets of LA. Northbound Broadway at Century now. LAPD Olympic Division units still in pursuit. They have been for the better part of the last hour or so, and now he is making a turn away from the freeway. That's going to be a right eastbound turn off of Broadway onto Century Boulevard. The driving has been extremely slow for as long as we have been over it. We'll see if that changes, but again, this is believed to be an armed robber behind the wheel, a robbery suspect behind the wheel. There were 3 passengers at the beginning of the pursuit. 2 passengers were dropped off. They are in police custody and are cooperating apparently with LAPD. Now he has come to another sudden stop here. He's occasionally encountered traffic. He's been pretty much going with the flow of traffic, stopping for many of the traffic signals, red lights, stop signs, really obeying most of the rules here, but continuing this game of cat and mouse with those Olympic Division units. We've counted a total of 5 units behind him. LAPD's airship continuing to orbit overhead. They are continuing to order him to pull over. However, he has yet to do so. As you can see, he's continuing to travel at just under the speed limit here, coming up on Wall Street along Century Boulevard here in LAPD's Southeast Division. It really is anybody's guess, guys, as to how this is going to end. He just appeared. Oh, look at that driver's side door coming open for the first time. Suspect at a complete stop. Driver's side door opened up momentarily. He has closed it. Units getting back in their vehicles. They're going to take a look and make sure he's not dumping any weapons or dropping anything out of the vehicle, but right now it looks like it was a false start. He basically popped open that driver's side door and then closed it, and now he continues. He's back on the move with traffic here, again, eastbound on Century Boulevard. Yeah, they were ready to execute that felony stop. It does not sound like he communicated with them. You can see them now preparing once again. You'll see units kind of flank his both sides of his vehicle if they have the opportunity. But you see that LAPD unit now crossing over the double yellow lines just in case. They want to have visibility in that driver's side once he does open the door. But he is looks like he's just stopping for the red light, just basically continuing this joyride. And you just have to wonder at this point. It'll be interesting if there's any information from the passengers, if they have any idea how much gas they started with. I mean, are they dealing with a fresh tank of gas here, or is this guy going to start running on fumes soon? We just don't know. But maybe that's something that those passengers that he dropped off do know. You just don't know. It's always a possibility. One can hope, anyways, right? No, in fact, he traveled in a straight line directly down Broadway, didn't even turn off of Broadway. He traveled due south, paralleling the 110 freeway, which tells me he's not using Waze or Google Maps, because if he was going to come down here, you would take the freeway. The freeway is jammed. Broadway is wide open. He took full advantage of that and is sticking to the streets. Every time he's had an opportunity to get on the freeway, he has turned it down. He has made a very clear decision during this entire ordeal to stay on surface streets, and he's continuing to stick with that strategy. He's even had a little bit of an audience at certain parts of the neighborhood where you see people coming out and trying to catch some video of this pursuit, and he slowed down. At one point, he even came to a full stop in the middle of the intersection, posing for pictures, and then kept on going. You can see he's now picking up a little bit of speed. This is about as fast as we have seen him drive now in the entire time we've been watching. Now doing close to 40 miles per hour, still within the speed limit here. But again, at least he's showing signs of life here as he presses that gas pedal and uses up a little bit more fuel. Armed robbery suspect wanted in connection with an armed robbery that we do not know when it occurred, but it was believed to have been committed with a handgun, that they were operating under the suspicion that that weapon was in the vehicle. We don't know if that weapon is still in the vehicle. They are treating it as such as far as we could tell, but that might be information that we've alluded to before. Maybe those passengers have information as to where that weapon is. Perhaps it's still in the vehicle, perhaps it's no longer in the vehicle, but those decisions, those details play a really big role into the decision-making process of law enforcement tactics, because LAPD will be much more hesitant to pit that vehicle if they know that that driver is armed. But again, ultimately it's up to the watch commander. If he establishes any kind of a pattern, which he has yet to do, then you might see this could be an optimal pursuit for a spike strip if they can get ahead of it. Right now, the turns that he has made appear to have been mostly random. In fact, I'm a little surprised that they didn't try it on Broadway, because he was basically traveling in a straight line. They may not have had units in position, but in any event, he's now made another random turn, again southbound off of Century onto Central Avenue. You can see the full pursuit package, a primary unit, a secondary unit, and all of those backup units now catching up as they continue southbound on Central Avenue, making that right turn with him. And now he's continuing to get closer to the 105 freeway, which is what we were looking at a little bit earlier, but then he made a random U-turn and decided to turn around. But now he is again going southbound, this time on Central Avenue, closer to Watts. Yes. How much? Copy. Air 7 News Desk, you up? We're at about 45 minutes, 45 minutes of fuel. What if we just can we go west? Because he's going west. Can we go on the south side of the 105? Copy. Coming up on the 110. Under the 110. Go ahead, Jay. That's correct. Yeah, a little bit of a long shot here. We have to remain south of the 105 freeway to give those airliners landing their wide berth, and you can see he's now coming up on Figueroa. He has just gone underneath the 110 freeway on 108th Street. He is traveling, Mark, at a virtual snail's pace here as he continues kind of the same behavior that we have seen over the course of this pursuit, not going anywhere fast, still refusing to pull over, but really making this more of a long, drawn-out joyride as he enjoys his final moments of freedom here. Again, there were 3 people inside the vehicle originally. 2 of them have been dropped off and are in police custody, and it looks like he may be at a stop here just to the east of Figueroa Street. Unfortunately, from our vantage point, we cannot get a good visual at this juncture. If he gets a little bit closer to Figueroa, which is lined with those palm trees there north to south, that's Fig. And he's going to come right through the middle of the shot here if he's still moving. There he is. There he is, right down 108th, continuing right through Figueroa. He's been basically obeying red light and stop sign that we have seen for the most part. But again, he's still refusing to yield here as this armed robbery suspect continues this chase, Mark. They are in police custody. We understand there were 3, I believe 3 people altogether, including the driver. So he's dropped off 2. We have every indication that he is alone now inside that car. Very difficult to tell. As you can tell, this is an older model Ford Focus, but the windows are very heavily tinted, and since we've been over it, we have not gotten a good shot of the driver himself. So we really don't even have a description of this driver yet, but he's now coming up on Hoover Street, which is a street that he was already on earlier in this pursuit, probably close to 45 minutes ago at one point, maybe even a little bit longer than that now. He was on Hoover Street. So now he's kind of back in the southwest area, although he was much further north when he was on Hoover earlier. We are much further south now. It'll be interesting to see if they know or have any indication as to where he resides. Where is he from? Most likely they probably do have that information, and I just wonder if it's in this area. But right now we have covered a lot of real estate as long as we've been over this. I mean, starting in West LA, all the way along Washington, into downtown LA, into southeast LA, all the way down to the 105 here. As you mentioned, we went through Watts briefly, and he is now just north of the 105 freeway on 108th Street, and he's now going through Hoover, not making the turn this time, going directly west on 108th Street. No, hardly. I mean, at many points he's been going below the speed limit. You know, it tells you something about his state of mind, but it doesn't tell you exactly what his state of mind is, if that makes any sense. You know, we don't know if he's under the influence or what is going through his head. But as you mentioned, he's not super agitated. He's not really desperate to get away. Most likely he's content with the inevitable outcome of being taken into custody. Whether he gives up peacefully or not is another question. Whether he tries to run and hide, anybody's guess. But, you know, when we see these slow speed pursuits, 9 times out of 10, they generally end with a surrender because the suspect has a pretty good understanding of how his day is going to end. And so he's basically along for the joyride here, and we're along for the ride with him as LAPD units continue now northbound on Vermont Avenue. So making our way through South Central here, northbound on Vermont this time, coming up on Century. You'll remember just a few minutes ago we were on Century Boulevard. We'll see if he goes through it. Looks like he's going to go straight through it once that light turns green. I'm just looking for any sign, any signal of a pattern, and we have not seen that, because if we see a pattern, then you'll see them start to set up for those spike strips. We now have an additional unit in the pursuit. I count a total of, looks like 7 units right behind him. The LAPD airship still following overhead here. There are additional units in the background there, maybe getting ready on Century just in case he makes that turn. That would be something to look for if he was to make a turn, but it looks to my eye that he's going to go straight through the intersection here. No, and that would be nice to know at this point. We don't know if it happened today, if it's a crime that happened in another date, in another jurisdiction. We don't have any of those details, unfortunately. But the bright side is that there's a good likelihood law enforcement at this point probably does have all of that information, and all of that information is surely playing into their decisions here. No, all of the information we're getting is just what we're observing by the behavior behind the wheel. The behavior of that vehicle is really all we have to go on with those tinted windows, very limited visibility in there. Even law enforcement most likely dealing with that same challenge because it's just one of those situations. I mean, they really are just basically following along. This is a slow speed chase that has already gone on well over an hour at this point. I think we're clocking it at about roughly 75 minutes at this point. And Lord knows it can continue like this for another hour or two. It just depends on how much gas is left in the gas tank and how much stamina he has left to carry this on. But he is enjoying the ride at many points, stopping for pictures as some folks come out to get a little bit of video of this pursuit as it makes its way through the neighborhood here. We have now fully done an entire loop. He's really gone up and down the streets of Southeast LA. Now we're in Southwest LA. He's continuing northbound on Vermont. All of the turns that we have seen him make, Mark and Giovanna, have apparently been very random turns. There is no clear destination that he has in mind here. He's not aiming for any specific neighborhood. He's basically just taking these officers for a ride. Well below the speed limit right here. Yeah, this is probably, I mean, this is Vermont Avenue, probably a 35, 40 mile per hour at max, but he's doing about 20 if that. That is true. That is exactly right. If they have confirmation that there is a weapon in that vehicle, they are much less likely to execute a pit maneuver. Also, if he's going too slow, a pit maneuver would have limited effect. He has to be going. There's a real sweet spot for those pit maneuvers, and if he's really just crawling along like he seems like he is, even a pit maneuver is a little tenuous, but certainly an option that they have if they have clearance to do so. But I think at this point it's safe to assume they are continuing to treat this driver as an armed suspect. That's right, and a little more traffic as we make our way through Vermont here. However, a lot of that traffic seems to be coming the opposite direction. As you notice, he is coming or going away from Air 7, away from our camera. We are holding right south, just south of the 105 freeway. Again, as he makes his way through South LA, he's going to go right under LAX's approach path here. So we are going to position ourselves directly over Vermont Avenue and keep this shot as long as we can. Our second helicopter is actually aiming towards the north side of LAX, and you'll soon have a shot of him coming towards the camera as he approaches Slauson Avenue. That'll be coming up in just another few minutes or so. But right now, he's at a red light here. That's going to be northbound Vermont, somewhere in the 60s, I want to say, maybe a little higher than that. Coming to a stop here, again, continuing to obey all of those red lights. I've been looking for that, Mark. I've been looking for that. It seems like they would have had an opportunity to do that, but it does not appear that they are doing that. It looks like they're only following from behind. They're applying plenty of pressure here. They're right on his tail. There was no attempt to even give him much distance to play with here. In fact, it looks like one of those units just pulled up along his left flank as he comes up on another red light here. But you're right, Vermont is relatively lightly traveled, at least the northbound side is. But there are no units ahead of him. Right now, he is at the mercy of rush hour traffic, which thankfully is a bit light on a Friday afternoon. Very little foot traffic to speak of as well. So as you mentioned, as long as these conditions persist, they have a lot more options at their disposal, and they have the luxury of time on their side, because while he will eventually run out of gas, there are plenty of units to continue this pursuit no matter how long or where he ends up. And so it's really a matter of time. Again, it's a luxury for law enforcement. Time is always on the side of law enforcement, especially LAPD in this particular situation. They're just going to go along for the joyride. It really is what it is. It's really hard to see any other motivation at this point. It just seems like he's just taking his sweet time before he finally comes to a stop. Oh, most likely they have all of that information, but they're not they've made the decision that they're going to continue to apply pressure here. That this, unless the driving changes, if this becomes a wild pursuit and the chase just becomes too dangerous to keep up with, then they will keep the helicopters up, and at some point they will catch up with him, whether it's whether he comes to a stop or goes home or whatever the case may be. But in this situation, for whatever reason, they are not doing that. They are keeping all of those units engaged. They are right on his tail, and the slow speed and the safe driving that we're seeing just gives them every reason to continue to do that. As long as they can apply pressure and be ready when he does come to a stop, that is the best for everybody, including the general public. Behind the building, he's just shy of Fig. Still just shy of Fig, just to the west of Fig. But that would be a full circle that he's completed here in a few minutes now if he continues through Figueroa, because he's basically made his way all the way down Broadway, basically all the way west to Vermont, up Vermont, and then making that right turn all the way back to Fig. So he's really done a wide circle here. Again, very random, I would guess. Is almost no other way to slice it. I mean, he's just really making this up as he goes along. Maybe he's generally more comfortable with this general vicinity in South LA. But again, this all started in West LA, which leads you to wonder, again, going back to your original question mark, where did that robbery occur? Where did that original crime transpire, and what details are they working with down there that's leading them to continue this pursuit? Do we know where he is, or did we lose him? He's still stopped? Yeah. No, he's still on, what is that, 62nd? He's on gauge, okay. Eastbound gauge. Coming up on Fig. Another block that way. Bingo. See this one, that one's gonna be Fig. There we go. Perfect. Perfecto. I'm wondering about that too, to be honest. Compressor stall? What is that? Yeah. All good. picking up speed. We've got it. He's picking up speed. He's going that way. We can go west. I mean east. No. Yeah. Might turn north on Avalon. And they're not calling it out. I do have it up though. No, I mean on the scanner. Okay, copy. But yeah, it's not a... About 5 to 10.
continue to follow and see where he is headed, but for now, authorities are still tailing him.
They're tailing him. It looks like he's going northbound, judging by the shadows on the road there. He's heading northbound. I believe it's either well, we'll get the name of the street anyway. We're going to keep an eye on this. If there are any new developments in this, we will of course get back to it, and we will move on to other news. Students today impacted by the wildfires in the Pacific Palisades saw their playground turned into a Disney Wonderland.
As entertainment guru George Pinocchio tells us, it was a special event to bring some extra happiness during a tough time in their young lives.